Good evening and welcome to The Frame, an initiative of Access Framingham. I'm Brendan Fitzpatrick. Our top story this week, the Framingham Charter Review Committee's work is done as they finalized their recommended changes to the city's home rule charter during their meeting last Thursday, June 13th. The final meeting of the group marked the end of a months-long process to review the charter, which was created after Framingham transitioned to becoming a city back in 2018. And it is subject to a review starting every year, ending in a 3. Efforts to boost municipal government transparency and community engagement in the civic process have been just some of the initiatives taken up by the Charter Review Committee, as their suggested changes on all 10 articles of the charter were solidified last week. Committee member Mary Zarrilli-Connaughton's motion to propose the creation of a transparency committee in the city passed on Thursday. She explained that the group could provide oversight on transparency matters in the local government, while offering recommendations to the mayor, city council, and other officials.
It's just such a must to have for an engaged citizenry to see what's going on. And I can't see that we have anything to lose by it. It's another way for people to get involved.
It's worth noting that the motion was simply a non-binding recommendation, meaning that it's just an idea for other local leaders to consider putting into motion. Still, Charter Review Committee members such as Andy LeMary see that idea as one that could get more members of the community involved in the local government.
For me, the genesis of this was when we were in our community meetings and listening to person after person get up and talk to us about how they had difficulty figuring out what was going on in the town, or in the city, based on the website and everything else.
Recommendations for the Charter Review Committee will now be passed along to the City Council for final approval. In other news, the public hearing for the proposed downtown apartment building along Howard Street is set to continue tonight, June 20th. One Howard LLC is a part of the larger City Realty Group based in Boston. The group is looking to construct a 6-floor apartment building with over 130 units adjacent to the Armenian Church of the Holy Translators. The planning board has held a number of meetings with One Howard officials as they look to solidify site plans related to issues such as drainage and the area's water table, considering that Farm Pond is also nearby. The meeting hasn't concluded as of the time of this recording, but additional information on drainage infrastructure is expected to be provided on Thursday. The Frame will provide more details on the One Howard story as they become available. Framingham was joined by plenty of other communities in Massachusetts this week in experiencing a big heat wave as temperatures across the state consistently reached the high 90s. The National Weather Service's heat advisory will continue into Friday, June 21st, so residents are still advised to be mindful of these conditions. State and city officials have joined the MetroWest Medical Center in providing a list of tips to beat the heat, whether it's to begin this weekend or at some point later in the summer. Residents should use sunblock and drink plenty of water. You can even include a lemon with a straw if possible, as lemons can help replenish salt lost to sweat. People should stay inside whenever possible and wear light and natural fabrics while avoiding dark-colored fabrics if they do have to go outside. Meanwhile, children, seniors, and other people vulnerable to heat should be monitored, while kids and pets should never be left inside of hot cars. Additionally, the city's cooling centers will be open on Friday for those who need it. These sites offer air conditioning and free water. Cooling centers will be provided during Friday's business hours at the Framingham Public Library's Main and McAuliffe branches, as well as the Callahan Center. More details can be found at www.framinghamma.gov/summer safety. Wednesday marked Juneteenth here in the United States. Officially recognized as a federal holiday back in 2021, June 19th commemorates the end of slavery in our country, as it's often considered America's second Independence Day. On that date in 1865, following the conclusion of the Civil War, troops with the Union Army arrived in Texas to enforce the decree put forth by President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. The holiday was recognized at the Memorial Building on Tuesday, as the Juneteenth flag was raised during a ceremony that morning. Jesse Edwards, the city's Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer, spoke during Tuesday's event.
We have a responsibility as a nation, as a state, as a city, and as a community to celebrate Juneteenth. Juneteenth reminds us that the fight for freedom, justice, and equality is constant. Let us come together, people from all backgrounds, to listen, learn, and reflect.
You can learn more details about the stories we cover here on the program every week by logging on to the newest source for local journalism online. Our website can be found at www.theframe.news. There you can read more about stories that matter to everyday life here in Framingham and watch other feature stories that we've recently completed. Be sure to subscribe to our email newsletter as well and have the Frame's top stories every week sent directly to you. Also, we're curious to hear about what you might have to offer when it comes to story ideas, whether it's details about an event happening in your neighborhood, a person or group you'd like to see highlighted, or any other municipal matters. You're free to reach out to us and provide a tip. You can leave a voicemail by dialing 508-216-0003, or you can send an email to theframe@accessfram.tv. Now, any lovers of chocolate chip cookies out there will want to stick around after the break for our next segment, as we recently went out to find out more about the recipe's famous innovator, Ruth Graves Wakefield, who, believe it or not, does have ties to Framingham. We learned how our city played a role in the creation of a classic treat. Stay tuned, The Frame will return after this.
One scorching heat wave will leave me powerless to cool my insulin.
When the storm rolls in, my time to find a pet-friendly evacuation center will have run out.
I'm relying on luck, but who knows if it'll be on my side.
When it comes to disasters and emergencies, it's not a matter of if, but when. Take control. 1. Assess your needs. 2. Make a plan. 3. Engage your support network. Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell.
Welcome back in, as it's time now for our weekly focus. And it's a weekly focus that requires a warning for those of you with a sweet tooth, as this story might make you crave one of America's favorite go-to desserts, cookies. For many, the chocolate chip cookie tops their list of treats. We have one person to thank for the invention of the chocolate chip cookie, and she actually has close ties to Framingham. Her name was Ruth Graves Wakefield. Just a few days ago marked her birthday, and in honor of that, we wanted to learn more about her connections to our city and the story of the chocolate chip cookie. The Frame's Mackenzie Wright joins us now to share more. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Brennan, it's hard to imagine a world without the chocolate chip cookie. For many, this timeless classic is not only delicious, but its fresh-baked smell and taste is also heartwarming and nostalgic. June 17th would have been Ruth's 121st birthday, and though she passed away in 1977, her legacy continues today, one chocolate chip cookie at a time. Now, Framingham had a special place in Ruth's heart, as she learned a lot of her cooking and culinary skills at what is now called Framingham State University, before graduating in the class of 1924. It was just a few years after her studies here that the story of the chocolate chip cookie came to fruition and the tasty treat was born.
The chocolate chip cookie is just what many of us have grown up either cooking with our grandmothers or with our mothers. As far as, one of the first things you learn to cook. And then to be able to share that with others and the joy that it brings to others in, eating something that you've made. As you can see, these are the books that were...
That's Colleen Previtt, archivist and special collections librarian at Framingham State University.
So I have it here.
Here within FSU's John Halpern Special Collections Room, Colleen is surrounded by articles, books, and cookbooks, all centered around one woman and her very special recipe.
It's the chocolate crunch.
Known in this 1953 cookbook as the Toll House Chocolate Crunch Cookie, this is an earlier iteration of what we know today as the Toll House Chocolate Chip Cookie recipe, as in Nestle Toll House, Nestle being the largest food and beverage company in the world. But this started with Ruth Graves Wakefield, regarded as the inventor of what many consider America's favorite cookie.
She was very active in our alumni association.
These are Wakefield's own Toll House tried and true recipe books, and they were given to FSU by Ruth herself, who was very proud of her alma mater here in Framingham.
She was a member of the class of 1924 for what was then called Framingham Normal School. They were normal schools before they became universities. I think in the household arts program, and she was working towards becoming a home economics teacher, they did teach, the foods, teaching cooking and such. They also taught dietetics and, the health of food and how to handle it, preservation.
After her studies, Ruth did go on to teach home economics at Brockton High School and even worked as a dietitian at a hospital. But in 1930, Ruth met her husband, Kenneth Wakefield, and the couple bought a charming old Cape Cod-style house in Whitman, Massachusetts, over an hour southeast of Framingham. They called it the Toll House Restaurant and Inn.
I think the success grew of word of mouth of her cooking and her recipes and things like that. She created, through this, having a good staff and being able to keep everyone interested. As far as the food-wise and such, I think that they just would eventually have tour bus word of mouth or what have you, have tour buses of people just come off just to go to see the Toll House and to eat at their restaurant.
The monumental success that was the Toll House got its name because of its close proximity to a nearby building, which did collect tolls from those traveling between Boston and New Bedford. In a few short years, the Wakefields expanded from serving just 7 tables to 64, with Ruth at the center of it all. Her esteemed hospitality and exquisite cuisine brought in thousands of hungry travelers, guests, and tourists. Both sweet and savory, she didn't shy away from trying new things. You could call her an innovator, which brings us to the tale of the first batch of chocolate chip cookies.
Being a librarian and an archivist, I'm going to go with the facts, and we don't really have a lot of the facts. We do have the story that's been told that she was trying to create these dough drop cookies.
As it goes, Ruth ran out of the nuts needed for the butter drop cookies, a favorite recipe dating back to the colonial days. So she improvised.
She decided she was going to break up a chocolate bar, and supposedly it was a Nestle chocolate bar. And so she did that, and she was thinking, the story goes that maybe she thought that it was going to make it a chocolate cookie, but they melted in place, and it just became, a new recipe.
And it became a huge hit at the Toll House. Word of mouth took off, and eventually Ruth's chocolate crunch cookie recipe was published in a Boston newspaper, among others in the New England area. Nestle's semi-sweet chocolate sales skyrocketed.
Supposedly she had made a deal with Nestle that she would have as many chips as she needed, or candy bars before they made them into chocolate chips, to help with her recipes, and they could put a recipe on the back of the package, which they now do. I have never gotten confirmation from Nestle or anyone as far as that being true, but, it is a nice little legend or lore that, that goes with that Toll House cookie.
You can read that story for yourself on this commemorative plaque, which is tucked off of Route 18 in Whitman, where the Toll House Restaurant and Inn used to be. Unfortunately, the famous home of the chocolate chip cookie burned down on New Year's Eve in 1984, years after Ruth passed. You can learn more about that and even hear from a few people who worked directly for Ruth at the Toll House by watching this story in its entirety on our website, www.theframe.news. For now, Brennan, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you for that, Mackenzie. Now, according to Colleen, Wakefield's 1937 Toll House Tried and True Cookbook was the first edition to include the famous cookie recipe. You can see the impressive collection of Ruth's own cookbooks from all over the world and dating back to the 1700s within FSU's collections. Colleen even has a 4th edition 1937 travel book entitled Adventures in Good Eating, a directory of good eating places along the highways of America, authored by Duncan Hines. Now, you may recognize the Duncan Hines brand found in the baking aisles of most grocery stores, but you may not know that he highly recommended the Toll House to all travelers. Now, all of that prep for this cookie story made us at The Frame hungry, and we actually shared our favorite cookies on social media. You can find that video on our Instagram and X pages. Both can be found at @FrameNews_. Follow us there for additional news updates and maybe some more food reviews if we get around to it. Subscribe to the Access Framingham YouTube page and hit the bell icon there to ensure that you never miss an episode of The Frame when they drop each week. We're on Facebook too, as is that cookie video. Find us there just by searching for The Frame. Meanwhile, this Sunday, June 23rd, the group Out MetroWest will be hosting their Out on the Block community event along Hollis Street in recognition of Pride Month. Now over a decade old, Out MetroWest was created as a way to support LGBTQ+ youth across the region. Leading up to Sunday, our own Chase Whistler took a visit to Out MetroWest's space on the second floor of ATAC's building at 160 Hollis. Chase spoke exclusively to the group's executive director, Mel Pache, to find out what attendees can expect on Sunday and to learn more about Out MetroWest's work across the area.
At Out MetroWest, we're really committed to building communities where LGBTQ youth thrive, and Pride is one of the many ways that we're able to do that. It's a great opportunity for us to celebrate who we are as trans and queer people in the community. And so every June we have an opportunity to celebrate who we are and how we are in the world. And over the month of June, Out MetroWest has had such a wonderful opportunity to celebrate Pride in communities all over the region. And Out on the Block is our opportunity to host folks here and celebrate with a block party for the community. Our Out on the Block event is a block party open to the community. We'll be having a number of community partners join us. We'll have tie-dye and lawn games. We'll also be joined by some community partners, including the Framingham High GSA. Out MetroWest offers a variety of programming for LGBTQ+ youth from pre-K through age 29. And all of our programs are free. We also offer some community education for folks as well, people of all ages. And at all of our weekly programming, we have clinicians available on site as well. Programs are led by a team of adult mentors, peer leaders, and licensed clinicians. It's really wonderful to have a space that is specifically dedicated for LGBTQ+ youth, that this is a place that young trans and queer people can come and be safe and supported in their own space with support from both peer leaders and trans and queer adults. The space really is tailored to centers and prioritizes the experience of trans and queer youth, and that's something that's really important, that we have that space for them. So we have all of these books. We have a number of other resources in this space as well to really support the needs of trans and queer people. Something that we're really glad to be able to provide is free programming for all of our youth, and one of the ways that we're able to do that is through community support and community fundraising. So we're always happy to receive donations to help support the work that we do to create communities where LGBTQ youth thrive.
And once more, Out on the Block will be held at 160 Hollis Street this Sunday the 23rd from 2 to 5 p.m. Lawn games, food, drinks, live music, and more will be offered. Free parking will be made available off-site, according to the organization. Now, before we step aside for a moment, we'd like to remind you that The Frame is an initiative of Access Framingham, your local community media center located on Vernon Street by the Center Common. AFTV provides opportunities in traditional and new media to anyone who lives, works, or studies in our city. Access Framingham will be hosting an open house this Saturday, June 22nd from noon to 2 for people to learn more about the organization. Held alongside the Danforth Art Museum, the event will feature a tour of our studio, outdoor activities, food, merchandise, and more. Again, that open house will be held at 4 Vernon Street this Saturday from 12 to 2 p.m. The Frame will be back after this.
Getting close to the first pitch here at Fenway Park, but no sign of Wally the Green Monster.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Wally.
Welcome back in. Let's see what else is happening in our community as the Framingham History Center recently received an award from Mass Humanities, the state affiliate for the National Endowment for the Humanities. The center won the 2024 Mass History Commendation, recognizing its community engagement plan, which was adopted back in 2022 to better serve the city's multilingual and multicultural population. A major part of this effort has been their exhibit, Framingham's Collective Journeys, a series of installations on immigration that we recently covered here on The Frame. Anna Tucker, the center's executive director, said in a statement, quote, This commendation is a recognition of the power of stories. At the heart of our work is the belief that history is alive and evolving, shaped by every individual who calls Framingham home, end quote. As a reminder, Framingham's collective journeys is currently on display at the museum's location on Oak Street. To learn more about the Framingham History Center and the exhibit, visit their website at www.framinghamhistory.org. With the summer heat in full force, families have a few ways to stay cool while being active this summer. Registration for the Parks and Recreation Department's Summer Swim Club is open now, with practices taking place in Sudbury on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. Registration for the club ends at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, July 3rd. Additionally, while the beach waterfront at Washacum Beach is still closed to swimmers due to elevated E. coli levels as of the time of this recording, lifeguards are set to return to local beaches. And finally tonight, more and more events for the community to enjoy this weekend. Mass Bay Community College will be hosting a Family Fun Fest on Saturday the 22nd from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Live music, food, touch a truck with police and fire vehicles, and more activities for attendees of all ages will be offered at the college's new site at the corner of Franklin Street and Mount Wait Ave. Truck Day, meanwhile, will be taking place at the McAuliffe Branch Library and Hemingway School as a way to kick off summer reading. More touch-a-truck opportunities will be provided there from 10 a.m. to noon, as the event will also feature the library's bookmobile, opportunities to win prizes, and more. Then from 1 to 6 p.m. on Saturday, the city's Juneteenth Fest will be taking place at Farm Pond Park. The free event will feature food, games, performances, guest speakers, and more in recognition of the holiday. Visitors are invited to bring a long chair or a blanket to that. And finally, a reminder that next Friday, the 28th, will see the return of Stars and Stripes over Framingham, the city's fireworks celebration leading up to July 4th. The display will be shown over Farm Pond in recognition of Independence Day. The event will run from 5 to 10 p.m. We'll have an in-depth look at Stars and Stripes over Framingham on next week's edition of the show. We took a trip to the fire department's headquarters to speak with Chief Michael Dutcher as the city prepares to celebrate that holiday. For now, though, that's it for Framingham News in Focus. For everyone here at The Frame, thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Brendan Fitzpatrick. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.